Almost. Major. Holy fucking shit, this is major!
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Almost Major, where we talk about the many major studios and the films they release. Today we're talking about Sincerely Charlotte from 1985. My name is Kevin Tudor. I'm here with Charlie Nash.
Hello.
And Bryden Doyle.
Hello.
And joining us, a super special guest, is Natalia Keogan, film writer for Filmmaker Magazine and Paste Movies. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you guys for having me tonight.
Like I said, we were talking about Sincerely Charlotte from 1985. This premiered in France, February 20... Should we just get all the French accents out of the way? Because I'm just going to be doing that the entire time, and I can't do that. What's my man's name from all that? Or are we just going to do that the entire time?
You're going to be Keenan in the bathtub the entire time?
The entire time, yeah.
God.
Premiered in France, February 20th, 1985, and then United States, July 18th, 1986. It's opened in one theater in the United States and maxed out at 9, so hell yeah. I could not find the budget or the opening weekend. Apparently in the U.S. it made $300,000 and allegedly made $680,000 in France. Top 5 films that weekend are Legend, Murphy's Law, The Money Pit, Police Academy 3, and Gung Ho. I'm pretty sure this is the same weekend as Critters or something like that.
Yeah, the only one of those I've seen is Legend, which is
it's bad.
Every shot of that movie is pretty stunning, and I could care less about anything that's actually happening. It's like
good.
Every shot I'm like, that's a good shot, and then like when it comes to any sort of compelling narrative or dramatic storytelling, I'm just like, yeah, who cares? Yeah.
You feel the same way about Police Academy 3, don't you?
I haven't seen any Police Academy movies.
Jesus Christ. Number one song in the U.S. this week is Holding Back the Years by Simply Red, and number one song in Canada this week is Who's Johnny by El DeBarge. Plot description from Google. A French pop singer played by Isabelle Huppert flees with her ex-lover played by, I'll get to that later, after her latest lover is found slain. This is written by Caroline Hubert and Luc Barant and Joël Gouron. Directed by Caroline Huppert. This is Isabelle Huppert's sister. I didn't get a chance to look about what else she's done, but a lot of French television movies that I had not heard of. And, even this movie doesn't exist. It never made it past VHS. Starring Isabelle Huppert as Charlotte. Prior to this, Heaven's Gate in 1980. After this, The Bedroom Window in 1987. Bryden, I feel like you've seen that.
I have. I watched it because it's Curtis Hanson, and I like him a lot, but it is, like, before, like, it's not, like, nearly stylish enough, like, to make, like, its plot like sort of jump out, and Steve Guttenberg is like the main lead of the movie, and he's just like kind of a nothing. I feel like his first like really good thriller of his that I've seen is Hannah Rocks the Cradle, which I think is like, you know, really well directed and very trashy, and also has like really good performances like by everyone in the cast. I don't know, yeah, good director.
Amateur in 1994, La Cérémonie in 1995. The movie kicks ass. The Piano Teacher in 2001. I still have not seen this movie somehow. And,
what? That's like my favorite Haneke. I never know how to pronounce his last name.
I mean, Cachet is up there for me, but yeah, I need to see it.
So good.
Charlie, what are some other Huppert? I feel like you're a disciple. I mean, there's Elle, of course.
There's Elle. There's 8 Women. She was in I Heart Huckabees. She's very funny in that. There's Things to Come, the Mia Hansen love film. Greta was probably her most recent biggest movie. Obviously she's been in more movies since then, but like I can't think of one that's like even hit like a lot of like independent art house theaters.
What about Weed Mommy?
Oh, wait, right. There is Weed. Is that what is it really called? Weed, like
it's
Mama?
called Weed Mommy.
Wait, what?
I thought it was Weed Mama, but
yeah,
one of those.
Mama.
That's
one of those.
That's
too.
better. Okay.
When you mentioned Greta, that made me think of the video that you sent Kevin and me. Where she rates the table flips, because in Greta she flips the table while screaming at Chloe Grace Moretz, and there's like the bit where it's is it like the it's like a Real Housewives clip, and she gives it the highest rating. It's like 2 out of 5 because she's a woman. And that's like,
yeah. Oh, that's an iconic video. Oh, and she made some films with Claire Denis. She did White Material with Claire Denis, which I like a lot. Yeah,
I love that movie too.
Nobody's gonna talk about Dead Man Down, but okay.
I will say Isabelle Huppert has been spoken about in my circles recently because of her Bushwick dwelling son. So she's in Bushwick sometimes, according
Wow.
to fan sighting.
That's crazy.
You gotta ask her about Dead Man Down.
When I worked at the Coolidge Corner Theater, I remember one of the higher ups in the office was like, anybody recommend anyone for getting the Coolidge Award? And I was like, Isabelle Huppert. And then she went, no, she frightens me. Which I mean,
yeah.
But like Isabelle Huppert could punch me in the face and I'd like be the happiest person in the world. Like,
What a punch. What a punch.
God, she should have won for Elle. I can't believe I actually let myself actually think there was a possibility that she could have won an Oscar for Elle against Emma Stone from La La Land that year. But I mean, that's also a great video. Have you ever seen the round table where it's like everyone, Natalie Portman, Amy Adams, bunch of people, and the Hollywood Reporter guy asks, has there ever been a role that's changed your perspective on life? And everyone kind of
She's like,
is
no, it's
quizzitive,
acting.
and she just goes no.
Like,
And I
it's
think
acting.
Natalie Portman starts like dying.
Also, I feel like you've probably shared. Was she the? I feel like you sent the clip of like her pointing a gun at someone. Is that like her episode?
Oh my god, the Law and Order
That's the
SVU
Law and Order.
episode.
Oh,
It's
Jesus.
the best Law and Order SVU episode. Has anyone else seen this?
No, but I need to.
I feel like I only know about it because of you.
No, okay.
Great. Thank you.
They think that she kidnapped. They think that she kidnapped her son, and then. And then her son is kidnapped. The kidnapper drives off of a bridge into a river, and the son and the kidnapper drown. Okay. And then they go to the morgue, and they're like, you do have to identify his body, and the kid is clearly dead. They unzip the bag, and she's like, no, he's just sleeping. And then she basically does the thing that happens in every SVU episode now, where she steals the gun from the cop's thing and then holds everybody hostage in there. And she's just like, anytime anybody moves, she's like, my son needs his rest. Like, it's so good. It's so good.
What is she holding them up for? Like, revive him.
I can't explain it. But at one point, like 3/4 of the way through the episode, they're just trying to keep her calm so she doesn't shoot anyone. And they're like, no, you don't want to upset your son. He needs his rest. And she goes, oh, who are you kidding? He's dead. Best SVU episode ever.
Like, calm down. It could be worse. David O. Russell could be here. And she's like, yes, that is true. That is true.
Natalia, do you have any favorite Huppert movies, even if we've touched upon them?
So I am really shocked that the piano teacher isn't unanimously viewed by all of us here. That is really amazing. I actually saw it in the theater for the first time recently.
Wow.
I'm blown away by it. I love Elle, love White Material, which you did bring up. Greta, a classic. I wonder why I'm blank. I'm sure that there's other.
Oh, what is going on? She was in Paris when Miss Harris went to Paris.
Duh.
Oh, right.
Okay,
Oh, right, she was.
So, yes, that is. I don't know how I could forget such a gem. I genuinely loved that when I saw it on. I think I watched it with like my mom and my sister, and it was like, it was made in a lab for that purpose. So.
I've still yet to see it, and I heard she's kind of the villain, isn't she? Like as much of a villain as like.
Exactly.
In a movie like that.
She's a little misunderstood. Like that.
Yeah.
I did just buy a movie she's in called Ma Mère, which is an NC-17 movie, and everybody I follow has given it a star or a half star. And Chris File said this is an all-timer
also,
of
how
bad
can
vibes.
we forget her surprise appearance in EO?
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, you're right. It's just incredible because you're an hour into the movie and you're like, wait, Isabelle Huppert is here for some reason. And what's going on with her and her stepson? What? Yeah, like
shows up in a more for like 0.5 seconds.
And Happy, she is in more Hanukkah films.
Happy
is it
End.
Hanukkah or Haneke? Yeah,
Who
because she
cares?
plays the same character in Happy End, and then she is in a more, and she's in Time of the Wolf, which I have not seen, but apparently that's a post-apocalyptic.
I have seen that one.
Is it good?
It is. It's very grim, as you would expect with a Haneke movie.
Also,
What?
I have not seen this, but in New York, we're doing, Film Lincoln Center's doing a retrospective of Catherine Breillat, and I'm really, really interested in seeing her turn in Abusive Weakness, which is supposed to be
That-
kind of
Oh
autobiographical
yeah.
for
That
Breillat.
is, yes, that is a very good film. I can't believe I forgot to mention that. That is a fascinating film, and it's all based on an incident that actually happened to Briat. And
I'm
Yeah.
really, really jazzed to see it.
Are they going to be showing Anatomy of Hell there?
Yes.
Hopefully, there's a Q&A after that. That'll
There
be fun.
isn't, unfortunately, but I do love that movie. It's really, I don't know, feels a little pared down for her, but I really like it a lot. I love that movie.
Yeah, I've seen Fat Girl and Romance and Abusive Weakness, and I need to catch up on the rest. I do have Anatomy of a Hell downloaded, but maybe you should cut that out. But yeah,
You can only it's only on DVD, and that DVD is out of print. I don't think Miss Brulot is going to come for you. It's fine.
Has anyone seen her newest film? It played at IFF Boston
Oh,
last
yes,
summer.
I did. It's really, really interesting because it's a remake of a Danish film, and it's the first film remake she's tackled, and it takes some like really interesting choices, especially like with the endings, like kind of like diverge. Really good.
Last Summer is what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
It's thorny and dicey, like most Briat films are, very much on
Precisely.
purpose.
It's about an affair between a 17-year-old boy and a much older woman who also happens to be his stepmother.
Can she just make like a chill movie?
No.
Like, she's like, also, big ups to her. She's like mid-70s, and she's just like, nah, it ain't slowing down, dog. The bad vibes continue. She is legitimately like, when people were just like, oh, they're like, I don't know, like the Gaspar Noé and stuff, people like that, or I was just like, yeah, but I can feel them. Like with her, it's just like, she is legit. Like, and a lot of stuff it's like I don't agree with and do not like, but boy howdy, I'm actually, provocated by it.
Yeah, I
yeah.
love her. I will be seated for I think I'm trying to go to like at least 10 of the movies that they're doing.
Hell yeah.
Which
They
is
gotta-
like the majority of her films.
Hell yeah.
I would kill to see. It's not like I've only seen this movie once for obvious reasons, even though I do love it. But to see Fat Girl in a theater full of people who don't know that ending is coming must be insane.
I saw it recently in a theater, and it was like kind of a small theater too. But like the ending, like people like audibly like gasped and screamed. It was crazy for this movie that's been out for like over 20 years.
Yeah.
What happens at the end is she just goes, say you're a little fat girl. She says, no, it says, I'm a little fat girl.
Yeah, that's it.
I had to say the joke. Niles Arrestup is in this film. Yeah, we were way off the path. Playing Mathieu.
Yeah.
Mathieu. Okay.
Yeah.
Goddamn. And then Kristen Pascal playing Kristen. And does this New Line Cinema film have Lin Shaye in it? No. It was filmed in France.
That would be amazing, though, if she managed.
That would
to
kick ass. If they were just like prime Miramax stuff where they would get a movie and just edit that shit down, and New Line got in and was just like, okay, we'll put it out. Won't change a thing. There's going to be some reaction shots of Lin Shaye, though.
or if Lin Shaye's just sitting on a stool in the corner, just waving.
Well, there is a bit in the movie where it's like, I found out that Bernard was with an American woman. It's like, what if the American woman was Lin Shaye?
Lin Shaye.
Just like, I mean, that'd be cool. I'm no problem with it. I'm just that's the way they get her in. It's like, there's an American person in the movie. Great, we have a role for her.
I just watched There's Something About Mary for the first time this year. I don't
Where
know
are we
how.
going?
I don't know, but like,
Where are we
I had no idea. I was like, that's Lin Shaye? What? Like, I was just completely aghast.
Yeah, because she was also in Dumb and Dumber. I think she's probably in Me, Myself, and Irene. I also haven't seen that
She's
film
in a
in like
lot of
25
Farrelly
years.
Brothers.
Yeah.
But
Was she in Green Book?
Oh God, I hope not.
No? Okay. Now that'll get you off of fucking topic real quick. Just bring up Green Book.
Up Green Book and everyone goes silent.
Okay. And also, I cannot find legitimately anything on this movie, so there is no trivia facts that I have. I am quite sorry.
If I can interject, something I
please.
liked about this movie a lot, first of all, because we were talking about like music and pop stars like before like we started recording, but I think that it's really interesting that like the synopsis describes her as a pop star when really she's like a kind of like
lounge singer.
lounge singer who just like
Yeah.
given the opportunity because they're like, oh, she was just drinking too much.
Yeah.
But the music like really, I don't know if any of you are familiar, but like I was like kind of like tripping out because it really reminds me a lot of like Stereo Lab, even a little bit, like with like the lyrics and just like, the like kind of like French like new like muted disco of it all. I really was actually kind of hoping that like the musical elements would be a little bit more emphasized throughout the movie, and it's really just like in the beginning.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
The version of the film I watched, I will say, had subtitles for everything except the singing. Did anyone get?
Yeah.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Okay, I was
interesting
just
too. And at first I was like, oh, like damn, like my subtitles still
Yeah.
No, I was really curious to know what the songs were about. I feel like there has to be some sort of context there. And then through kind of trying to figure out like who the singer was, I like in the end credits,
Yeah.
like she's credited as Miriam Stockley, who's this like South African born like British singer who now lives in Florida. Doesn't look like she's had much of a career, but she's done a lot of backing vocals. Oh wow, she was on a Tina Turner backing vocal.
Oh damn!
Wow.
Okay, yeah, that's
Interesting.
That's I guess as far as the music tangent can really go because it's not.
Well, no, the one song that I did pick up in the lyrics was because at one point there when I think when he's initially when Mitsuo is driving Charlotte to the train station before they get into the car accident, they turn the radio and the song that comes on is an English language song. I don't know I didn't catch the title, but the lyrics I did catch were very much commenting on the movie was "Don't ever leave me," and I'm like, there we go.
You're right. That's also like a really I don't know like it just like the turns that it takes from there. I'm just like okay, like I'm still with you, but it's getting a little out of like the change in narrative is getting a little out of hand here.
It really shifts gears about halfway through this movie.
And that gear is into Drive, and then it's into an intersection where they get hit by a fucking truck.
Yeah, that was wild.
And I'd seen this movie prior, and I forgot all about that. And also, when we talk about an impudent girl, it's also just like, I thought it was going to end in the most French way possible. It was just like, what if a 10-year-old died in your arms? I was like, okay, man.
My broken brain just thought of the car crash in the Bling Ring with Bad Girls Do It Well. Or I was just like, that would have been incredible.
I'll re-edit the movie. Hold on.
Yeah.
Natalia, do you have any other initial thoughts for the movie?
So, yeah, I think that the way that, well, first of all, I mean, I don't know, because I was thinking so much about both movies together. First of all, like both protagonists are named Charlotte, but I think we can go.
Did not plan that.
Yeah,
Just
some
wild.
of the similarities I think we can go into a little bit later, but I thought that the like character of Matthew's wife or fiance was really interesting and very like French in the sense that, or at least like a caricature of like what French men think of like French women. Just like her kind of like resolution to stay by this guy's side when he's like actively like harboring his ex-girlfriend and then like literally like goes to aid her in like fleeing the country. I don't really know what that character was supposed to really accomplish narratively, but I still found her really interesting and this kind of like dynamic between the women or even just between Charlotte's like perception of like who he decided to like spend his life with. Like I think she describes her as kind of like a golden retriever at one point where she's like, yeah, she's kind of like boring or bland or whatever. I was like, okay, that's really interesting. But I don't know, as three men, what were your perceptions of gender dynamics in this film? I'm dying to know.
Yeah.
I ain't going for that. Charlie, you did it. I did think it was interesting where pretty much her entire character is just like, all right, go fuck your ex-girlfriend, just get it over with. Like I'll be here waiting. And then she was like, I'm tired of waiting. I took a plane.
Yeah, I know. It's so
here.
French. Like, he like drives in a bus down, just like hands Charlotte a bunch of money and is like, don't worry about it. Like, get yourself a dress or whatever. And then like a day later, it's like, oh yeah, I had to take a plane. Like, I didn't like being without you. And like immediately just like took the bus there and then
buy a dress. I want you to look good when you fuck my husband.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh God, it was. I don't know. I just like. I think both Charlotte and oh my gosh, what's
Kristen?
Christine?
Christine.
Christine,
Yeah.
I think. I think both of them were kind of shallow as characters, honestly.
I mean, do we really know what?
No.
I watched this movie 2 days ago, but we don't really know what happened to break them up, do we? Do we?
Who? Oh, initially, like their 6-year relationship, like
Yeah. Do we know what was
Yeah.
so terrible?
he said that she like didn't like I don't know how this came into like their knowledge, but
I think he said that
oh,
she
you
didn't love
stopped
him.
loving him or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that it was because he loved her so much that she stopped loving him. And then again, in the end of the movie, he says like, oh, I love you. And you immediately see her face fall and be like, okay,
She's
like,
just like,
this.
that's great.
It's over. Like, I don't care
Yeah.
about you anymore, actually. This is too serious.
Yeah, and he's kind of like that with her and everything, where when she's like, I mean, it is kind of like this weird, like, whenever one of them is up, the other has to be down and
Yeah.
everything, where, like, you know, when like, he's, like, super cold to her when she needs him and everything, but then when he needs her, she, like, is, like, saying, like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't, oh, well, yeah, I don't know. It feels like just like the motivations, even just like for the murder that happened in the movie, it's all so, I don't know.
It's surface level, yeah.
She's flighty, and all of her actions are she's flighty, and that's basically all we get.
And she drinks a lot. At least she did when the night that well, I
That's
guess the
also
whole thing is
true.
too, the whole did she didn't she
Yeah.
thing. They frame it in such a way, the movie frames it in such a way that she didn't do it. And we're supposed to be kind of left wondering, I guess. And then
No, she did it.
But no, I know. I guess we're not even going into. Are we like? How are we doing the plot? I guess is like.
I mean, it's if there's like actual plot the first 30 minutes, and then the rest of it is just like, oh, I love you so much.
It just becomes Pierre LeFou. Like it just becomes
Yeah.
like a weird Pierre LeFou, Bonnie and Clyde-esque type of thing. I was thinking I was completely entertained throughout this movie. I completely agree with you, Natalia, that everything is a little surface level, and by the end I was just kind of like, okay, not like movies need to have a point, but I was like, what is this doing? Like, what is this? Overall I enjoyed this, and I would definitely say it's worth seeing, but I think it's mainly because I mean I can watch Isabelle Huppert do anything. I could watch a whole movie. I could watch.
She's never looked cooler than in this
And
movie.
she does look
Oh my
super
god.
cool.
Yeah,
Like
and
the
even
first
that,
jacket she has while she's performing, that shit is dope as hell.
and then there's that great line that Matteo, or I'm sorry, I'm also butchering French. Mathieu says, she's like, do you like my hair? And he's kind of like, oh, that red streak kind of looks like blood. And she kind of just stops. But yeah, I was thinking, I was like, if there was another, like, it was like, these guys are a bunch of fucking assholes. Like, a lot of the time. And like, I was thinking, if Isabelle Huppert wasn't playing this character, would I be having as much fun watching her? Because I could watch her at the DMV just like for hours, just grumpily sighing.
I'd be like, what is she gonna do, man?
Yeah, like I think she's like one of the best living actors we have. I adore her, and I'm totally biased in that. I agree that Christine easily, obviously, the most sympathetic character, and the movie doesn't. I thought it was interesting because I was like, okay, so the movie's going to be about Isabelle Huppert hiding out, and how long can they keep this game going? And then Christine's no dummy and finds out that she definitely went through the skylight, first of all, then finds the note that
Then
she
finds the
wrote out
cigarette
and didn't
that is
send,
lit.
and finds the cigarette that's lit. So I'm like,
And
okay,
the
that's
picture
not what
of
this
him
movie's.
with her, with
Yeah.
the-
In the dress.
Finds everything. So I'm like,
She's
okay,
like,
this is interesting. It's not this type of movie, and obviously Christine is like in on everything. I loved that aspect of it. Then it goes on the road trip thing where they're literally pickpocketing everybody and committing Grand Theft Auto and all this
Oh my god,
stuff.
the scene where they steal that guy's car and then they go back past
Go
him and he
back.
tries to hitchhike back into his own
He's
car.
like,
is actually
oh,
really
that's so good. Ah, damn it.
Yeah, that was great.
I was just gonna say, obviously, one of the most interesting things about this film, especially speaking of Huppert's performance, is that her sister directed it. What do we think of the direction? And do you think that this like relationship elicited any sort of like performance from Huppert that seems novel here?
It's hard to tell because I mean, the thing with her, this is like par for the course for her, but par for the course for her is like always good.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel more,
Isn't
emotional or anything like that, because it's not really the movie that it's dealing with. But I mean,
doesn't she
she's
have
good
that
in
quote where she's like, someone asks her like if like her acting process, and she was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like acting is so easy. Like whatever.
it, which is the biggest stunt ever. Like,
I mean, in a way, she's kind of. It's not a noir film, but she's essentially a femme fatale who is kind of like a slightly nicer femme fatale who kind of gets everything she wants and just happens to kill one person, but then spares everybody at the end. And she gets everything that she wants, and that's a lot of fun. I don't know if it's really commenting on that at all. I mean, at the same time, I was just kind of like, this guy fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, you have his sympathy for a while where you can see he's really trying, and like part of my, part of me was kind of like, yeah, that would suck if an ex just showed up and was like, hide me out and stuff like that. But at the same time, for the first half hour, I was like, all of this could be solved if one character just said one simple thing to the other.
Yeah.
And they don't do that. And that's
just went
multiple
back in the house.
characters.
So my ex is in the house we have back there. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. I still don't fully think I grasp exactly what this movie's doing, but it's playful and I had fun,
Yeah.
and it's mainly because of Isabelle Huppert, I mean, above all else, which feels very much like a cop-out for any, especially gay cinephile like me, to be like, oh,
There it is.
Isabelle Huppert. Yeah, like, but like...
10 out of 10. You didn't even watch it.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, like, but I did have fun watching it. I'm a little flummoxed by it.
Yeah.
One thing I will say is that the shot lingers of her on the train just leaving, where she's like, I'm with this new guy now, we're going to Spain, and part of me was like, God, I hope that it just fades out and just cuts to the train blowing up or something.
Oh, he like flicks a cigarette. That'd be very funny if it's just like freaking Karma Police Radiohead just followed the the gasoline to the train.
I kind of wanted her to be. That's the thing. It's like in this in between thing where I either wanted it to be a little nastier or a little more empathetic, and I didn't really know what tone it was striking. But maybe I don't know. I'd say it's a curiosity that's worth seeking out if you like Isabelle Huppert,
Which to seek
So-
it out, have fun.
Agreed.
Bryden, initial thoughts?
Yeah, I like this. Couple things I want. Well, one thing I want to mention about Neil Searstrap, who plays Mathieu. I know one of his more famous movies that he's in is that Jacques Audiard movie, A Prophet, which I've heard for years is
Yes.
fantastic. I need to see that. Are you not a fan of it, Natalia? I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I said
just
I've
saw you-
never seen it.
Oh, okay. My apologies. But I haven't seen it either. But the one movie I did know him in is he's the grandfather or grandfather type in War Horse. He's the one who has like the big monologue to the little girl about like the planes like flying over him, I think, or something like that.
I didn't clock that at all.
I've not seen War Horse, but when you said that, I was like, did he play the horse?
He dubbed the horse in when it was released in France. Yes.
Sit in War Horse. But yeah, so that was cool seeing him. Like, I associate him where he's like, that's like, 30 years, some odd years after this movie, and seen him as a younger man. I like this pretty well. I agree with you that it is like, I don't know that it entirely adds up too much. I think it really like is kind of like this movie having a bit of a clean resolution. I mean, sort of, where like they both end up like happy with other people and everything. Although like sort of the shot that holds on him at the end as he's walking away from the train station shows like, but what could have been? That sort of ruefulness about it. I didn't find that quite as interesting. It reminded me weirdly of this. This is an American movie from like the previous decade, but there's a really good movie called Remember My Name by Alan Rudolph with Geraldine Chaplin and Anthony Perkins, where they're like a former couple. Have you seen it, Natalia? Or
Yes,
do you know about it?
it's so good. It's so
Right?
good. Yes.
Yeah. For anyone who
You're right.
listeners who haven't
Yeah.
seen it, it's Geraldine Chaplin gets out of prison at the start of a movie for having killed Anthony Perkins' lover when they were like together. And Anthony Perkins is now married to a new person who's played by Barry Berenson, who I think he was involved with in real life. They had kids. And then like Chaplin just sort of starts stalking Perkins and Berenson and like inserting herself into his life, and then Perkins, against his better instincts, is sort of drawn back to her out of curiosity and sort of follows their sort of toxic dynamic. That movie is like much more complicated than dealing with the fallout of that sort of reunion. But that's a really good, also very hard to find movie that I would highly recommend checking out.
It's on Tubi right now.
Oh, is it? Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
but I mean, when it's not on there, it's not on physical media, so it is hard to find.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I think this is interesting when it's like It is interesting following them in the initial journey of when they are just kind of like, you get the sense this is probably not going to end happily for them, or like they're not going to end up together and everything. I mean, I think it's interesting. One of the shots in the movie is like there's a close up where they're at the house by the lake. And it's like a medium shot of like them like sort of talking about like how they could take a boat or whatever to like go off like and travel and wherever. And it framed really interesting where like the water's going by them and it looks like they're moving and everything, or at least moving on the water, but like in fact they're sitting still. So it is like kind of showing like how like their fantasy and like real life is not quite matching up with what they're talking about. So I thought that was really interesting. And the direction, it is funny, like how this movie is like quite funny sometimes, how like it does sort of have this elliptical editing style where like it will just like sort of like cut ahead and will like just be like a character will be like doing something and then like it'll cut ahead and like we'll sort of skip like sort of the point where we see how they get to that point and everything, and which I think is like they'll be like sitting somewhere and then like all of a sudden it'll be like Mathieu waking up in a car all by himself or whatever, and like it does sort of keep you on your toes of like where this relationship will take them. Yeah, no, I thought this was fine. I think it's definitely boosted by the performances. You're right that Huppert is the standout. I mean, there's even a shot when like they're fleeing from the hospital where she's like dragging Mathieu, who's all like drugged up and everything from all the medication that he's gotten after the car accident, and she's like sort of scampering along and like tosses up an orange that she's stolen from the hospital and everything. Like she just like is like has like a very like devil may care vibe to her that is very funny throughout the movie, even as like circumstances get potentially alarming. I think it's like a solid recommend for me.
Can we agree that both Christine and Charlotte could do much better than this guy?
Yes.
I mean, yeah.
Like I was just kind of like, what is it about this guy? He seems so boring. Like
he's good with the kid, I guess. Like that's maybe
he?
like
he's kind of a curmudgeon in the beginning with "Don't touch my violin," which don't get me wrong. I mean, that kid was like touching the violin.
He was so out of tune. Fuck that kid.
But like, I don't know, and I think that's part of what it was getting at. And I think that the Christine character is supposed to be kind of tragic, and that like she has to put up with all this bullshit. But like, yeah, I never really got the appeal of him, which maybe that's part of what the movie's doing, and I'm just not smart enough to pick up on that.
So,
I don't know.
I think even in the ending, like, they're at the train station running to get a train, and he's just like seeing them off and then gets off, and it's like just clearly sending this message there's still like a fracture there, and that like there's like on his part like a level of non-involvement that's kind of sad. Like that's a sad note to leave on, that they're not like a happy family vacationing together. It's still very much
They have a new baby, but you take the baby.
exactly, like they have a baby, but also like how many like stories are there of like people like feeling like the only thing that'll like mend their relationship is like having a child, and it's still like not a like gonna mend the domestic like kind of mess that they were in.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did any of you see
like,
Gone Girl?
Well,
well, we don't know how that ended actually. It could have ended very well.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
it's true.
Apologies.
I didn't really give my initial thoughts. I think it's good to find. Y'all have pretty much said all I needed to say, but this one also, like I said, has never made it past VHS or Laserdisc, which is very interesting. Same thing with Ladies Club also.
Right.
But yeah, it's just very. I wish it was. Apparently, it's on Netflix and like overseas, but it's hard to find for sure. What do we think about favorite Isabelle Huppert performances if we're kind of spent on talking about the movie? Going with Piano Teacher?
I mean, I think I might. Or maybe White Material, honestly. I'm a big Claire Denis fan. I love
Yeah.
her in that movie. It's really...
She's so good.
Might have... Yeah, maybe that.
Not to be basic, but I mean, I mentioned it before, but Elle is such a thorny, tricky role. And I mean, Paul Verhoeven basically said, Paul Verhoeven, who we know in the past has, I love him and love his films, but, kind of weaponizes some casting. It's like that's like one of the few times I can think of where he was just like, you just do whatever you want. Like, I'm not going to direct you. And like that almost felt like a collaborative effort on their end. And I mean, Elle, she's so, I mean, it's such a, she's so unpredictable in that film, and so, and going through so many waves of emotions, and sometimes she's scathing, sometimes she's so funny in that movie in ways that like I can still remember like moments of that movie where like her performance just like had me like with a laugh in the back of my throat, where I even was like, am I even supposed to, like, is this supposed to be funny? Like, because, like, oh my god, like, I can't believe this is happening. But yeah, definitely, yeah, Piano Teacher and Elle are certainly up there. I think she is really, really good in Things to Come, and Things to Come is a great movie. I've actually only seen it once, and I mean to see it again. I do wonder, that came out the same year as Elle, around the same time. Both of them came out around the winter of 2016 in very limited release, and I do wonder if she would have gotten even more attention for Things to Come had it not been overshadowed by Elle. There were also very weird connections between that movie and Elle, where they were both Christmas movies, and she owns like the same black cat. Like, I remember that being a big deal.
Is it the same black cat?
And I think her mom dies. Her mom dies in both of those movies. Spoiler, sorry. Yeah, I do remember that being a big, you know, topic of conversation of which Huppert movie, like, because she was getting all the awards buzz for Elle, which is, even by 2016, that's still kind of nuts. But I remember Things to Come, she's just as good in completely different ways.
I feel a little bit bad commenting on this because I feel like, especially because like throughout much of my teen years and even my adult life, I feel like most of my intake in cinema, I'm trying to be better about this and like get like a bigger grasp of like the cinema that exists outside of North America. So I feel like as a result of me sort of being sort of on that diet of just sort of what was in multiplexes for the first like chunk of my life, I haven't seen as much with Isabelle Huppert outside of like the American stuff, or like sort of stuff that came out in America that or in Canada. I live in Canada, but a lot of American stuff comes to Canada.
So what you're saying is Dead Man Down is by default.
You joke. That is the first one I saw her in, where like we were saying like, oh, but the thing I remember people saying is like, oh, Isabelle Huppert, like, why would you cast her in this nothing role in like this shitty thriller or whatever? Like that, I remember people being disappointed or perplexed by that at that point.
Yeah.
She's very fun in Greta. I think that movie is very silly, but like it is like stylishly shot,
she's
and like
so good.
And her sort of. Go ahead, please comment on it, Natalia.
I was just gonna say I unironically stan that movie. That's all. It's
very fun. Like when she like stabs the guy with the needle and like dancing around her room. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I don't understand why that movie wasn't a bigger deal. I mean, it's so clearly riffing on, you know, Little Red Riding Hood, and all Neil Jordan movies are fairy tales, and she's basically the big bad wolf. I mean, like, it's just, and everyone's just like, yeah, we're having fun, and I feel like people took it almost a little too seriously, where Neil Jordan was just kind of trying to make like riff on De Palma a little bit there, and just have Isabelle Huppert, you know, do her thing. That's another good question though. I'm curious what everybody's first was, now that you brought that up, Brydon, because I definitely know the first time I saw her was in I Heart Huckabees, which I know, you know, David O. Russell, obviously a monster. He, you know, bad man. There are moments in that movie I still find very funny, and one of the funniest moments of that movie to me is when Jason Schwartzman's talking to his parents, played by his real life parents, and they're in a room with absolutely no windows, and they're just like, where did this come from? And then she just shows up in the room and says, I have an explanation for this. And then Jason Schwartzman's mom like, wait, who the fuck is she? How did she get in here? And then it's just no explanation whatsoever. And she just pulls out all these like documents and shit. She's so funny in that movie.
First performance, I'm looking right here. You know what it was? Dead Man Down, folks. Oh, God. Saw it in theaters. WWE film.
Am I the only... Natalia, have you seen that movie?
No.
Okay, good. I don't feel this alone now.
No, I did see it more in theaters, but the thing is, I showed up 5 minutes late because I snuck in, so I didn't get to see her scene in it, so my first performance was in Dead Man Down. God. But probably my favorite is probably La Ceremony. That movie kicks ass.
That movie's great.
Yeah. Wrapping up, anything else on Sincerely Charlotte?
Oh wait, well, Natalia, do you remember what your first?
Oh yeah,
Isabelle
first,
Huppert?
yeah.
I'm trying to remember it because I don't know. I've been aware of her for so long. Like I'm just looking at her Wikipedia page right now, and like I'm trying to rack my brain because it says that she has a voice role in the Fantastic Mr. Fox, but I don't remember
Oh,
in that.
I don't either.
Oh, it's the
It's not
French
even-
dub version.
Oh, she probably voices everyone. It's like the clumps. Like,
That's why I was like, that can't be right. Like, but aside from that, maybe.
oh, she was also in
Maybe it is
Disappearance
Elle.
of Eleanor Rigby, and she has a wine glass in her hand in every single scene of that movie.
It probably is Elle though,
Oh, wow.
Hell yeah.
which is I guess quite an introduction. I saw that before. I only saw White Material when BAM did like this cinema in New York did a retrospective of all Claire Denis films. So I don't think I saw that before. But
I feel like that one, just to get on that movie for a second, is like underappreciated now, which is weird because I'm pretty sure that was the first Claire Denis film ever brought into the Criterion Collection, and it was a bigger deal when it came out. And now, if you ask people, people consider that lower tier. But I mean, the politics of that movie are so clear from the
Yeah, I
outset that
agree.
she's a very stupid, ignorant white woman who's in war-torn
I
Africa,
mean,
and
Denis
everyone's
has such an interesting like perspective on like French colonialism, especially in Africa, considering like she was raised in that. So I think
exactly
it's such a valid like perspective, and that she's like one of like our like eminent filmmakers and kind of like exploring that and all the like ramifications that come with like settling in like or operating as a like colonial entity in a place that you don't belong to, but that you were born in and that you don't necessarily. Well, Chocolat like explores that really.
yeah.
But,
Yeah. It almost feels like a pseudo sequel to Chocolat. if
Yeah,
that
it does.
character-
It really
yeah,
does.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I could not figure out my first on-screen experience.
No.
But that's my guess.
That's great. I'm also glad you brought up that French dub of Fantastic Mr. Fox, because I just looked up a playlist article from 2009 where Mathieu Amalric was voicing the Clooney role, and Huppert was voicing the Meryl Streep role, which is fascinating to me.
Please tell me Kenan Thompson voiced at least one character in that French dub. I'm sorry. That's terrible. I'm so sorry.
Boy, howdy.
I am very worldly, I swear.
What was your first exposure to French people? Well, I was watching all that.
God damn it.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Almost Major. Please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Please follow the pod on Twitter at Almost Major to keep up to date with what movies we will be covering in the future. Myself, I can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at Kev Bonesy. Bryden can be found on Twitter at Bryden Doyle and on Letterboxd at J Doyle. Charlie can be found on Twitter and Letterboxd at CT Nash91. Once again, thank you for listening.